Hi, welcome to this tutorial on how to make a histogram chart. If you haven't already done so, please open the Excel spreadsheet called Make a Histogram Chart. It should look like this. This table is very similar to previous tables. It's got lots and lots of data. If we scroll down to see how many rows it in, control down arrow, you see there's about 18,000 rows in this data and way too much to calculate using a hand calculator. Now for this information, we want to make a histogram that shows how many shrubs there are of each size class. To show you what I mean by that, let's move to the Charts tab further down the bottom here. Click on that. And you can see here we have a chart that shows along the x-axis here the height of each shrub, so 0 to 5 centimeters, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 to 25, all the way up to about 100 centimeters. And then on the y-axis it shows us the number of shrubs that are in each of those size classes. So you can see there's a bit over 200 shrubs that are between 5 and 10 centimeters tall. And there's about 1,000 shrubs that are between 10 and 15 centimeters tall. If we click on that chart, we can see that's derived from this table here. And there's about 231 shrubs that are 5 to 10 centimeters tall. There's about 991 that are 10 to 15 centimeters tall, 1,391 that are 15 to 20 centimeters tall, etc. Now if you look at the data in our height column here, it's all varied. It's a continuous data. We've got virtually every number all the way from small numbers up to very big numbers. That means we can't just use the simple options up in the top here, like insert a column chart or insert a line chart, because Excel doesn't know what height classes we want to use. If we move back to our chart tab, we need to tell Excel what classes we want to use for our chart, so we can develop a table like this to draw a chart like this from. So to do that we need to use the histogram option, which is a little bit more complicated than we've done previously. Now before you can use a histogram, you first have to add in the analysis tool pack to Excel. First, please check if you've got that. Move to the Data tab at the top, and right on the right hand end of that you should have an option called Data Analysis. If you can't see that, you have to load it. It's in your Excel, it's just not shown. So move to the big symbol up in the top left, right, click on your mouse, see Excel options below, click there. On the left hand side here you'll see add-ins, click add-ins. Down the very bottom you want to say Manage Excel Add-ins, go. Click go. Now put a tick beside Analysis Toolpack and press OK, and it'll then load this data analysis option in for you. Once you've got that in, we've still got another couple of steps before we can make this chart. First thing we have in our table here is we've got trees and shrubs. We only want to make a chart for shrubs only. So first, let's use the filter to get rid of the trees. We showed you how to do this in a previous tutorial. First, we'll highlight all the headings, up to the Home option up the top, Sort and Filter on the right, add a filter, and we'll now click on the one next to the growth form there and just select shrubs. So we've only got shrubs and there are no trees in this table. All we need from this now is a height information, so we'll just highlight that column, say copy, Control C. For now we'll move to the temp table down here where I've just added a blank table, and we'll move up and we'll paste that information in. And you can see now we've got the height information for all of those shrubs in a great big long column all the way down to here, and there's nothing else in it. Now to draw a chart like this, if we go to our chart tab, we need to tell Excel what's the biggest information we have for our shrubs, otherwise we don't know what the maximum number is. So let's move back to our temp data here. We need to instantly calculate the maximum height of our shrubs. That's really easy to do. We go to the bottom of the column, Control down arrow, we'll just move down below that by one cell to the blank cell down here, and we'll now go up to Auto Sum on the right, click on the little arrow next to that, say max, push return, and it's calculated the maximum value out of all of the values in our column. You can see the formula up here is equals max A4 to A 1,253, and the maximum value we have is 100 centimeters. We need to remember that number, but we'll delete it for now. The next step we have to do to make our chart is make a list of all the categories we want. So if we move to our charts table, we need to make a list of all these height classes. We want them in 5 centimeter intervals like this. So on the temp sheet, starting here, we'll just write 0, 5, 10, 15, 20. We don't need to write it all the way to 100, we just do the first ones. Highlight those, drag all that down, and you'll see it fills it all in. We'll go a little bit past 100 to 105. And Excel calls them bins, okay, when it draws a histogram. So So this is our data on the left, and this is our bins here. Now, before we can draw the histogram, it's worth having a biro and a piece of paper and writing down 4 numbers. For your data column here in the first column, we need to know the first cell, which is cell A4. So write down A4. And you need to know what the last cell there is. So if we go to the very bottom of that, it's A12953. If you go back up to the top, control up arrow, we go to our bins here. The top bin is at cell C5, and the bottom bin is at cell C26. If you write these down first, I find it's a lot easier to make a histogram. We'll now just move up here to the right of our information, and we now go up to Data, Data Analysis. You see there's a whole lot of analysis options here. Select Histogram, say OK, and now in the input range you need to say where the data is coming from, which is A4, 2, and you use colon to show 2, which is a full stop above the full stop symbol on your keyboard. And then the last cell you have, which is A12953, and our bin range is at C5 colon C26. For output range down here, we'll put it just to the right of this information, say at E5. That means that our data output is actually going to be shown up here at cell E5. Push OK, and you can see that Excel has now calculated how many shrubs there were in each of these size classes. So from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 centimetres there weren't any shrubs. From 5 all the way up to 6, 7, 8, 9 centimetres there were 231. From 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 there were 991, etc. all the way up. So to draw a chart, we want to first off just get rid of this more button down the bottom. It shows us that there weren't any ceilings that had higher values than 105. And to draw a chart, it's always easiest if we delete this cell here, so this is blank. We'll highlight all of our data like that. Move up to the top, insert a column chart. Click on the first option here, and here's our chart. We can clean this up a little bit. We don't want that heading. We don't want this legend, that's pretty uninformative. We don't want these horizontal lines, they don't really tell us much. Our bars here are very narrow, there's a lot of white space. So if we just right click on one of them and say Format Data Series, you see gap width, we can drag that back to about 30, say close, and we've got nice wide bars now. The numbers along the bottom here are a bit small, so we can make those a bit bigger. Just highlight them, home, click on the up arrow to make them a bit bigger like that. These numbers on the left we can make bigger, like so. And now we need to put in our chart what the x-axis and the y-axis numbers refer to. So over the horizontal axis, we go up to the top here, Chart Tools, Layout, Axis Titles. We want a primary horizontal axis. We say add a title below the axis. And this one tells us the height class of all the shrubs. So we type in there the height class in centimetres. Click on that, make that writing a little bit bigger. That's great. Now if we, on this axis here, click on this one, say Layout, Axis Titles, Primary Vertical Axis Title, Rotated Title, write one in here. And in this one, we want to write in the number of shrubs, because that's what's in this. Highlight that and make that a bit larger, up to Home, larger font. And we can just reshape this a bit till it looks a bit nicer. And we now have a wonderful chart that shows us how many shrubs there were in each height class. So you can see there were 231 shrubs that were 5 to 10 centimetres, 991 shrubs that were 10 to 15 centimetres tall, etc. So that's called a histogram. Remember, a couple of steps we have to do it. You have to first off make these bins and then use the data analysis option here. You can't do it straight from the chart tab, but otherwise it's pretty straightforward to use. That's all for now. Bye.